And that lesson is not only important when it comes to your general interaction with other people, it's important when it comes to your family, when your kids are telling you things that they're going through, when your spouse is telling you things that they're going through, your people that you work with and your friends. And I know for me, the most interesting thing that I found about the Barbie movie, and I should probably start by saying there's going to be some spoilers. So if you have not seen the movie or if you plan on seeing it, you probably should not watch any more of this video. Hey, it's Dre Griggs of Seeing Wisdom. Today I have a treat for you. I have 3 of my 4 daughters. Girls, you want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, my name is Ari, and I'm 8 turning 9.
My name is Andy, and I'm 7 turning 8.
My name's Alec, and I'm 10 turning 11.
All right, and don't forget to look up into the camera, not at yourself, which is very tempting on the screen. So we, all of us, I'll put a picture on. You'll see me in my awesome pink outfit, my green shoes. Shout out to my mom, who is an AKA, or is an AKA, right? You never were, but she is an AKA. And so we went to the Barbie movie, and we were like, let's just share one thing that we each took away from the movie. Now, you can already tell the camera is blurring a little bit, where it's focusing on me and it's kind of blurring the girls. So what will happen is I'll actually cut it where each of them will come in individually and share what their takeaway was. But I actually thought it was a pretty interesting movie. I know why some people loved it, and I can tell why some people didn't like it. And I think that's okay. We'll talk a little bit about it. I'm not here to convince you or to change your mind in any way. I'm just sharing what we thought was interesting about the movie. And we did enjoy it. We were celebrating Andy's birthday over the past weekend, and she is a huge Barbie fan. And so her birthday present she was looking for was a new Barbie doll, and she was looking to be able to go to see the Barbie movie. So that's exactly what we did. So for my oldest, who isn't here today, I'll start off. Autumn actually shared with me that she thought it was interesting that they showed what it looks like when the males were oppressed and like the Barbie Dreamland, and then they showed what it looked like when the females were oppressed in Los Angeles. And her big takeaway is that everyone is special and that they have to be appreciated for their individuality, and that you can't just kind of dismiss anybody based off of any one characteristic. And I thought that was pretty interesting. And she was very surprised at how many people missed that, where everybody was focusing on one aspect or another aspect, but you didn't realize that the movie actually showed you what it was like to be a male and to be objectified and your voice to not be heard, or to be a female and to feel like you were being objectified and your voice was not being heard, and that nobody enjoyed that. And I can admit that wasn't the first thing that I thought of, but when she mentioned it to me, I was like, yeah, they did do that, and I thought they did tie that pretty well.
I'm Ari, and I thought that the lesson from the movie was that nobody's perfect, because I noticed in the movie that every Barbie doll was like acting perfect and stuff, and they weren't really like actually living and everything. And then when she started messing up, I realized that she was experiencing real life and reality, and realized that nobody's actually perfect. So that was the lesson for me. And my most interesting part from the movie, I feel like, was when she went into the real world and she had met like one of the main characters, like the girl at the place, and I thought that was a very interesting part, the way that she reacted to Barbie.
Well, I thought the most interesting part was like everyone called each other Barbie, and the boys all called each other Ken, and I thought that was a little confusing on which Ken they meant or on which Barbie they meant.
I think that the moral of the story is that you should be allowed to be whoever you want to be, and like you don't have to all be the same. Like it would be weird if at every birthday you had, you just got a blanket and cake and then like a phone at every birthday you had. And I also think the most interesting part of the movie was when they were all like going out in the beach with like their boyfriends, and then they were like, excuse me, and then they went to a different one. And I thought that was kind of funny. And I thought the kids would have been like more interested in the fact that everyone was doing that. Well, that was my most interesting part.
And I know for me, the biggest takeaway was showing compassion for the experiences that other people are going through. We don't always have the ability to live in someone else's shoes, to hear exactly how they perceive and interact with life, how we're impacting someone's life, how the decisions we make can positively or negatively impact others. But more times than not, when you have a chance to hear what someone's trying to accomplish and how they're trying to accomplish it and maybe the struggle that they're going through, I find that we're all sort of going through the same struggle, right? Like, if you're a woman talking about a patriarchal society, I've generally never considered myself in the powerful category where I was oppressing you and keeping you from doing and accomplishing something. But at the same time, I can understand that there are advantages to being a male, statistically speaking. There's advantages to being tall, statistically speaking. There's advantages to being considered beautiful or attractive or sexy. And there's disadvantages to accents or being short, to difficult names. That there's all sorts of things that we're each struggling with where there are perceived advantages and disadvantages. And if we don't ever take a second to just try to understand why someone's upset, why someone is bothered, then we go through this life blind. And so obviously the Barbie and the Dreamland, they had their perfect life. There were women all over the place and they thought life was great. And she was completely just disrespecting Ken on a huge level. But she wasn't completely aware of it. Now, you and I, we may say, well, it's one thing to not be aware of it, but could you at least just be a decent person? And I believe that is kind of where I landed on it. Like, you should be a compassionate person. I may not completely understand what it is like to live life as a woman, but I do have 4 daughters, if that counts. I'm just kidding. But seriously, it has opened up my understanding. It's broadened my horizons in a lot of ways. But at the same time, I don't have to physically experience it. I shouldn't just automatically say, well, I've never experienced that, so it must not happen, or you're blowing it out of proportion, or you're being, sensitive or something like that, because I haven't personally experienced it. But we all know that happens all the time. People walk around and completely ignore or minimize the struggle and difficulties that any particular group of people have, that they don't fall within that category. But I have found that just listening to people and trying to understand and to empathize and say, well, I've experienced this in my life. Is this similar to that? And I know that it's a very fine line, because they don't want, you want to be listening. You don't want it to seem like you're trying to turn the attention off of them to you. But I do often share stories about myself, because I'm trying to say, is this similar? Is this like it? Not that it's the exact same thing, or it's worse than, or it's better than. I'm not trying to compare. I'm just trying to understand it. And I don't know if you know, but anytime we hear words, for example, if I say the word desire, in your mind, you may repeat it back and say the word want. And it's not that the words inherently mean the same thing, but those are words that you do use on a regular basis. And so we're always translating the information that we receive. Whether we see it or whether we heard it, all we can do is take the information that we are absorbing and compare it to our past experiences. And if we don't have a past experience, it becomes more difficult for us to understand that. And so one of the cool things that I think the movie does capture is this idea that you may be blind to the oppression that someone is going through, but you don't have to be. And that lesson is not only important when it comes to your general interactions with other people, it's important when it comes to your family, when your kids are telling you things that they're going through, when your spouse is telling you things that they're going through, your people that you work with and your friends. A huge part of being an effective communicator is genuinely understanding what someone is trying to say to you, right? That's not overwhelmingly difficult. And the crazy thing is, people feel that they are clearly expressing themselves, where they're, I've been in leadership positions and people have been like, well, I felt like I made it clear to you that I needed a raise. And I was like, I can understand now that you told me, right? Like, I saw the end of the movie, so I understand now all the little things that you were trying to convey to me, but it wasn't very clear to me because the way I express myself is different than the way you express yourself. And I'll give you a silly example, and then we can be done with that. And I'd love for you to share in the comments if you saw the Barbie movie and just what was one big takeaway that you had. I know that it's going to be easy to bash something, and that's generally what we do. But I find it beneficial to find one valuable takeaway that you have, right? We don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Are you saying that there is nothing in the movie, that no value, no edification, no insights, no growth? then I would say don't leave a comment. I'm just interested in one takeaway, one edification, one growth that you have that is going to help you when you interact with your family, when you interact with others, when you're communicating, how you strengthen your communication. And so on that, I'll tell you the very last things. I remember one time my oldest, and we were talking about taking a shower, and I told her, I was like, yeah, I took a really long shower. I felt really good. Oh, it was so great. And she was like, oh, that's great. Like, and somehow we got around to how long the shower was. And she was like, okay, so how long was this really long and great shower for you? And I was like, oh, it was probably like 20 minutes. And she looked at me and she was like, what? And I was like, yeah, like 20 minutes. That was a lot longer than I normally take a shower. And it was kind of nice. I understand why you take longer showers, is what I told her. And she said, oh, no. She's like, 20 minutes is a short shower for me. She's like, a long shower for me could be an hour. And I was like, an hour? Why in God's name are we sitting in the shower for an hour? I could wash myself like a dozen times over. And, we had a laugh at that because we were both using the phrase a long shower. But mathematically, when it came down to what we were talking about, I was talking about a third of the time that she was talking about. That was one of those things where if we didn't have a deeper conversation, that I would have left thinking that we were both talking about 20 minutes and she would have left thinking that we were both talking about 60 minutes. But the truth is we were talking about 2 different times. If you found value in this video, I ask you to like and subscribe so you can continue receiving valuable information on how to unlock generational wealth through strategic retirement planning